Lana Quest,
Hey, Brian Rundle.
how are you, ma'am?
Yo, chilling. How are you doing?
Chilling sounds like
Oh,
the
oh,
appropriate word. We were just talking about the weather right before we got on here. Lana
chilling.
is up there in very, very chilly weather. I gave her my
New
very
England.
scary story of our high of 55 degrees here in Florida, which
You know,
it's hard to
you-
handle.
you're fortunate, but we still haven't gotten a lot of snow, so I'm not going to complain. It's not bad. It could be so much worse in New England.
Yeah, I mean, up there, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on. I look at some of these playoff games over the weekend up in
Ah,
Buffalo. It was crazy. I mean, the snow, and I mean, you literally, if you wanted to go to that game, you basically had to go in there and shovel the snow off your seats. And there's a bad blizzard up in Buffalo, but here, like I said, 55 degrees, and
you're lucky. But you got Ron DeSantis as your governor, so I don't envy you.
exactly.
I don't like the envy. I'll envy it till then I go, hold on.
We,
That's Florida.
Believe me, I will
It's a
take
travel
I might
warning.
take your weather over Ron DeSantis. I not even might. I definitely would. But
Yeah. The
uh,
NAACP told me not to go to Florida.
yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you literally got direct instructions about this crazy state.
Right.
Um, we got a lot, obviously, to talk about today, as we always do. It seems like we kind of go on for a very long time.
I know.
But we have a lot to say, and I told Lana last week, if it's time to cut us off, you give us the signal and let us know. But before we get started, I want to acknowledge that yesterday was Martin Luther King Jr. Day. And happy Martin Luther King Jr. to everybody out there. Lana, I saw, of course, some of your tweets and everything on Martin Luther King. If you would indulge us, please, and let us know what Martin Luther King meant to you, Martin Luther King Jr., and that day, what it means to you. I'd love to hear that.
Oh, nice. Gosh, he is like a representation of all of the Black leaders for me. So when I think of Martin Luther King Jr. Day, I think about the struggle, civil rights movement, like all of them, not just the leaders, just the people who fought during that time. So like he's just a representation of that. Of course he's special. I got together with my family on Sunday we did, and we got
Mm-hmm.
together. So that was good. But yeah, he meant a lot. And it's like I try not to do too much because I hate that one day thing. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like he deserves more than one day.
Yeah.
It's I started to go on like the Republicans pages because they just do the "I have a dream" speech, and that's
Yep.
all they want to do. So that's kind of frustrating. It's frustrating that he fought so hard for us to be right here at this point right now fighting, but I don't know. Feel
Yeah.
like
I
trying
mean, obviously, one of the most influential Americans in our history, and for so many good reasons. And I know how important he is, not just to the Black community, but to this country. Everybody just assumes sometimes that you associate Martin Luther King Jr. just with the Black community.
to.
But obviously, that's not what Martin Luther King Jr. was about. Martin Luther King Jr. was about everybody. And he was
Mhm,
very influential, not to just people in the Black community, but in the white community as well, which
mhm.
otherwise back at that time you might not have seen as much. But maybe he opened up the eyes of some people at a time where it may have been a little bit more difficult to understand the strife and everything that the Black community went through. So as you said, just a day, you know, probably should be more, and maybe not just of Martin Luther King Jr., of everything celebrating, what this country has gone through and the strides that they have made. I say the same thing every year on Veterans Day.
Yeah,
It's just to say, hey, happy Veterans Day,
right,
on one day, it seems to
right.
me like there should be more going on there. But happy Martin Luther King Jr. Day. And it's definitely somebody that should be celebrated in this country. I mean, we have a lot of people in this country that we have talked about that we detest, but there are a lot of people in this country that have made this country exactly what it is and how great it is. And Martin Luther King Jr. certainly was one of them.
And the fact that Republicans are trying to take his books and the mere mention of him out of, our lives is just incredible.
They're not trying to, Lana. They have.
Yeah.
And it's again, we've talked about a million times on this show, the party who seems to be so much against the government being involved in cancel culture and all this bullshit is doing exactly what they say they're against.
Right.
But they also have a large amount of the country believing that it's the Democrats that are the ones who are canceling you and the ones who are taking away your stuff.
Right.
They haven't taken away any guns. They've taken away books. They have not taken away your right to speech. They're taking away your right for an abortion. It's just where.
Right. They can't name anything that has been taken away from them.
No, they can't. They can name all the things they think that have been taken away from them, that they've been convinced that have been taken away from them.
Right.
None of it has.
Right.
And these are the kind of top secret sort of information that you get, by the way, on Black and White with Brian Rundle and Lana Quest. I keep saying the Black and White show, but if I look at the title, that's not the name of the show, right? It's Black and White with Brian Rundle and Lana Quest.
Oh, what do you say? Black and White?
I always say the Black and White show.
I mean, I guess if you're trying to search it,
we've got some major marketing stuff going that we need to figure out here. So
I call it the show too.
Yes, yeah. But anyway, Black and White with Brian Rundle, Lana Quest. Please hit that. What do you say? The like button and the subscribe button. And you're supposed to do this, I think.
Oh.
Point down because that's where it's at.
I don't know. I hit that notification bell too.
And the notification bell. I hear that all the time as well. So if you are watching this live or you're watching it later and you don't do that.
Hey.
All right.
Come on now.
As Lana says, come on now. Okay. Let's start with the, I guess, story of the day. If you go on Twitter, again, Lana and I refuse to call it X. We're calling it Twitter.
I can't do X. Sorry, guys.
If you go on Twitter, you would, for some reason, see that a lot of people were not stunned, but once Donald Trump had won Iowa in the primaries, they're on there. What's wrong with you people in Iowa? It's like, well, I don't understand why this was a surprise.
Who's gonna win? Is it Republicans? It wasn't.
I don't know, Lana, but
eeny, meeny, miny, mo, which fascist was you gonna vote for? Like,
correct. So we're gonna go over yesterday's Donald Trump victory and some of the participants in there. But former President Donald Trump scored a record-setting win in the Iowa caucuses on Monday, with his rivals languishing far behind a victory that affirmed his grip on the 2024 Republican presidential nomination. Certainly no surprise. Mm-hmm. It was the lowest turnout caucus in a quarter century. Participants endured life-threatening, cold, and dangerous driving conditions to meet in hundreds of schools, churches, and community centers across the state. But those who ventured out delivered a roughly 30-point win for Trump that smashed the record for a contested Iowa Republican caucus, with a margin victory exceeding Bob Dole's 13% point victory in 1988. So there's a couple of important points here. One, it was an extremely low turnout. In fact, it was only 14% of Republicans who came out to vote. Now, of course, as it was stated, a lot of that had to do, I'm sure, with the weather. And maybe the other part of it was too, is like, the weather's really bad. Trump's got this locked up. What's the point?
Right. Maybe.
So I mean, I think a lot of that plays into it. None of this is a surprise. None of it should come as a surprise to anybody out there. I think maybe people are still upset that a guy with 91 felony counts, a guy that was found guilty in a court of law of sexual assault, easily and so heavily won the Republican nomination. But again, I here in Florida, I was prepared for it. I'm sure up there in Massachusetts, you were prepared for it as well.
Right. Let's dig into the numbers because I do some research, sort of.
I'm telling you, this was...
So registered voters in Iowa, 2,083,000.
Mm-hmm.
Registered Republicans, 718,000.
Yes.
People that voted, 102,000. People who voted for Trump, 53,219.
Yep.
That's not a great showing.
No.
It's not.
It's not. And you know what else really was irritating is that the news coverage of it and everybody else going nuts over it, they asked questions. They always ask questions when they come out of the voting.
Right.
And one of the questions was, do you think Donald Trump was or Joe Biden won the election in 2020 fairly? And a large number of them said no. Now, at this point, again, why are we surprised by this?
Right.
Like, we already know this. This is not
if they're voting for
anymore.
Trump, that they absolutely think Trump is still which is funny because they keep saying that Trump is the president, but you're voting in a primary. So that's a little confusing. But
you're exactly right. Most of these, if I don't know how the primaries work up in Iowa, I don't know if it's open to all parties. Or if it's just open to Republicans, because in Florida, you have to be registered with a party to vote in the primary. So in other words, I can't vote in the Republican primary.
I think Iowa is the same, but I believe New Hampshire is free for all.
Yeah. So, but the fact is, if that is the case in Iowa, then of course the Republicans are going to come out and say, and I can't imagine any Democrats, even if it was open, going to the Iowa caucuses and voting for anybody other, than Donald Trump, Haley, whatever it is. Right. So I think take it with a grain of salt. Don't get offended. Don't get bothered by it. This is stuff that we've known already for years. Right.
It's baked in.
It's baked in. That's exactly right. So, speaking of the Iowa caucuses, you talk about something so antiquated and so so.
Let me get my paper bag.
Oh, what do you mean your paper bag?
Oh, that was throw up? Because that's what I thought when you said antiquated, because that's what I saw, people putting stuff in paper bag. Like,
I don't know. How did I not put that together? What the clip I'm getting ready to play?
Right.
How did I not? Oh my God, Lana, is it time to cut us off now?
I know.
Is the show over?
I'm just proud of myself that I halfway paid attention to the news, but I did pay attention. I got enough of it to get all of this.
Well, I'm always proud of you, but let's take a look at a clip of the way they vote in these Iowa caucuses, that if this happened in the national election and Joe Biden happened to win that state, imagine what the Fox News, Newsmax, the Mark Levins, and all these other fucking nutbags would do if they saw this.
And we will come and collect them.
This is how you vote for your high school president. Actually, the high school president is a little bit more sophisticated than this.
That is wild.
Yeah.
Is that how they do it all caucuses, or is it just Iowa? I've never seen that.
Now, I don't know if it's all caucuses in Iowa. I don't know if it's because I think Donald Trump, what did he win? 98 out of 99 counties. So I don't know if every county does it that way, or every precinct, or whatever they call it there. But they take a piece of paper and they put it in a paper bag, not even like a secure box, not even they put it in a paper bag.
Two pieces of paper could stick together. Like, it's just insane.
That's how you vote. Like, maybe that's like an
app. Handwrite it? So you have to read it?
I would imagine being in an Iowa county fair and then voting on best pig. That's basically how they would do it in an Iowa county
That shit is
fair.
crazy. Iowa should not even. That shouldn't even be a big state. Like
No.
we're reporting, news is reporting on that, and they put things in the magic trick.
Lana, this is why, I ask you to do a show with me, and I rely on you to make sense of any of the stuff that makes no sense. But I will admit it is a very, very, very tall task. So, but there were other participants in the Iowa caucus. We could talk about Ron DeSantis or Nikki Haley first. Oh, and probably the last time we have to mention Vivek Ramaswamy's name. I want to get his name correct because I don't want to be this asshole that on purposely gets his name wrong. Like,
I will.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I won't stop you. But he's an idiot. Yeah. But who do you want to touch on first? Ron DeSantis or Nikki Haley?
They're the same person to me.
It's a coin flip, right?
Yeah.
All right. So let's start with Ron DeSantis because he came in second.
Yeah. Okay.
And Ron DeSantis was a guy at some point, maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, when he won the governorship here in Florida by a large margin, won by a huge margin. And in that time frame, between the time he won the first time and the time he won the second time, became almost like a cult hero here in Florida. He was I literally saw Ron DeSantis flags here the same way I saw Donald Trump flags. And there was a point where I even heard people like, this guy is easily going to win presidency if he runs. And I had told a few people, I said, this guy has zero chance of winning the presidency. He's awkward and he's weird. And they were like, nope, you're awkward and weird. And I said, no, that's definitely not true. But I think, I don't know if I can prove that I'm not awkward and weird, but we can definitely prove at this point now that Ron DeSantis is, because this guy, the fall from grace, he was all over the place. I mean, literally, people were praising him. The New York Times or one of these big publications, how he won COVID and how he was this and how he's a take control kind of guy. Then he had to show his true colors out on the campaign trail, and it was an absolute embarrassing disaster.
Correct. I saw him on the campaign trail over the summer. Maybe I told you the story, maybe you saw it. And he bent down to talk to this little boy who was eating a slushie.
Yeah.
Because it was like record heat wave.
Yeah.
He's like, what you eating? And the little boy goes, a slushie.
Trying to relate.
Yeah. And Rod goes, there's a lot of sugar in that.
Yeah. Oh, great. Yeah. I'm getting sugar shamed by this awkward nerd running for president.
I heard on the news something about, oh my gosh, like Ron DeSantis, when he went to Iowa, he did better in certain districts before he went to visit. And after he went to visit and then they took the polls, he went down in the polls in those same districts after they met him.
Yeah. And, it's just so weird because Ron DeSantis was a Donald Trump fanboy. Like he, licked the boots of this guy for years. And then he decided he was going to run against him. Now, I don't know if there was any strategist that came to him and said, you understand that if you run against him, he's not going to like you anymore. Do you understand this?
I'm sorry. It's like the wash.
That's okay. That's all right. But he went through it anyway. And the fact that he decided he was going to run for president, knowing Donald Trump was running as well, and literally said nothing bad to him until maybe the very end, he started getting a little bit into it. And The irony is that Ron DeSantis, after this was over, in fact, let me see if there's an exact quote,
Nice.
but what did he say? Oh, damn it. Here it is. The Florida governor's campaign staff and allies spent much of the night furiously attacking the media for calling the race for Trump before some caucus goers had even cast their votes. This is a quote. What's that?
Before they put their vote in the bag.
Before they put their vote in the bag. A quote from Ron DeSantis: "The media is in the tank for Trump, and this is the most egregious example yet." So he's basically calling election interference on this when he loses. All these guys, when they can't handle it. And by the way, Ron, you had no chance going into this. What are you?
Right. You're too far behind. It's not like you lost by a few. It was like, come on, Ron.
Yeah. It was sad and pathetic. And I do have a clip that,
nice.
Listen, it's hilarious. There's a couple ways to think about this. What do you think about when somebody running for office is being heckled or is being interrupted by somebody that is an opposing voter? What's your thought on that?
Wait, Joe Manchin or Ron DeSantis are we talking about?
Anybody. If you saw any elected or somebody running for office
being heckled by the
being
opponent?
heckled, or what's your thought on it? Do you think, nah, I'm not a big fan, or
it's hilarious. I love to see how they handle it. I think it's funny.
Well, I will say this. I personally would never have wanted our politics to get here, but since they drug us down into the mud, I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
I'm completely fine with it. And there's these two gentlemen called the Good Liars. Have you seen these guys?
No.
Oh my gosh. Follow them on Twitter or wherever, because they're fucking hilarious. They go into every one of these sort of primaries and everything and just disrupt. Ron DeSantis and Casey were interrupted the other day as they were given a speech before the primary by one of the guys from the Good Liars, and he wanted to present them with an award. Now, one thing I don't like the fact that these people can just out of nowhere come up to these candidates, because that's pretty dangerous. That's one thing that I would say that I'm not a big fan of. But since this happened, and of course there was no violence that happened, this is pretty fucking funny.
Real quick before we get started, thank you everyone. Governor DeSantis, I want to present to you this participation trophy. Now, it's probably not going to win the election, right? But we're proud of you for trying. There you go. I mean, sorry, buddy. He's special, he's unique.
Look at his wife is like trying to block him.
Right.
Do you want the award?
He called him our special little snowflake.
And it's so fun. I love how at first they don't know there's shade coming, and they just like, you can't wait to get the award, and then it's like, oh, you see Casey's face change, and then she tries to separate. I'm like, wait, Casey about to get in front of that dude for her man. Wow, she wear the pants for real. I thought you were going to show me Joe Manchin's clip.
I didn't see that one.
Yeah, Joe Manchin had some type of press conference, and I don't know what it was. He was speaking, and then all of a sudden, they started heckling him. The people he was talking in front of, maybe he thought they were Joe Manchin friendly, and they started saying something about Joe Manchin's coal. I don't know. It's like coal and fuel, that shit. Like they just kept chanting that shit. He had to leave.
Yeah.
Like they wouldn't stop.
Well, again, this is the kind of politics they drug us down into. And there's a few other clips I'm going to play later that are just beautiful. These are Democrats fighting back, which is just, I mean, I'm talking, it is as good as it gets. But, you know, that's the kind of shit that a Ron DeSantis deserves, because he's just a piece of shit human being. He's an awful human being. He says terrible things. He wants terrible things to happen. And he's just a terrible human being. And watching him get trolled, him and his goofy wife, is, to me,
she didn't have her gloves on.
Yeah. Nikki Haley was the one who finished in third place. Now, Nikki Haley is one of these candidates that I think was the one most people were taking serious. Ron DeSantis, in a way, they were, and I think he's a decent alternative to Donald Trump, but it's either Trump or DeSantis. I don't know how many people are Trump or Haley. I think maybe people are just drawn to Haley because she seemed like she wasn't Donald Trump. She seemed like and sounded like somebody that could be presidential, but then she continued to open her mouth and prove to everyone.
They weren't going to let that brown woman go anywhere near that White House.
Well, you know, the thing is that the Iowans, and I think most people would look at Nikki Haley and not see her as a brown woman. I think they look at her and see her as a white woman. I don't think a lot of people even know.
Yeah, she's trying to hide it. I guess she does a good job, but I did see how Vivek Ramaswamy's wife was talking to constituents in, I think it was Iowa, and asking them what they saw when they looked at Vivek, like what are people saying about Vivek, you know what I mean? And a lot of them were like, well, they're saying like this is how they were. They were saying like, they say he may be Muslim.
Right.
Like, that's what they were saying.
I don't know if you remember back in 2016 during the Iowa caucuses when Pete Buttigieg was running, and a woman in Iowa voted for Pete Buttigieg and then later was told that he was gay and she wanted to take her vote back. She didn't know. She had no clue. So, you know, and that, to me, that right there, it's just a testament of showing that you vote against your own interests sometimes, or you vote against somebody that you're appealing to. But then when you find out something about them that you think you don't like, now all of a sudden, oh, I don't like him. Like, what? Why?
Some people just don't need the power. Like, it's like voting is power and people just don't know how to use it wisely. That's why, you know, I don't know, like, we don't need kings and queens. We'd be fucked up, right? It's just people are just crazy. They get crazy.
But
bad decisions.
But Nikki Haley, again, you know, we brought her up on the show before when she was asked about the Civil War and what was that about. She just completely destroyed the answer. It was a pretty easy question, pretty easy answer, and she refused to even acknowledge the right answer, maybe until a few days later. And then when she did, she still kind of, you know, circumvented around it. But she was also recently asked, you know, of course, right after Martin Luther King Jr. Day, she was asked about racism in this country. And I don't, you know, it seems to me, again, a very easy thing to address, but this is how Nikki Haley addressed it.
Racist party? Are you involved in a racist party?
No. We're not a racist country, Brian. We've never been a racist country. Our goal is to make sure that today is better than yesterday. Are we perfect? No. But our goal is to always make sure we try and be more perfect every day that we can. I know I faced racism when I was growing up, but I can tell you today is a lot better than it was then. Our goal is to lift up everybody, not go and divide people on race or gender or party or anything else. We've had enough of that in America. That's why I'm so passionate about doing this. I don't want my kids growing up where they're sitting there thinking that they're disadvantaged because of a color or a gender. I want them to know that if they work hard, they can do and be anything they want to be in America.
Yeah, that's just another thing that drives me crazy. First of all, do you want to comment on that, Lana?
Well, so she said two things. Like, she said, you know, America's not a racist country, but then she turned around and said she experienced racism. So I'm not sure which one it is, but
She also threw in, we're not perfect. So what's not perfect?
Right. So over 6,500 Black men and women and kids were lynched between the end of the Civil War and 1950. So pretty sure that America's a racist country. Like,
She said, well, we've never been a racist country.
right?
Never.
How is that, Nikki Namrata, whatever your name is? Like, that's so, like, it's so, why do they? Tim Scott said the same thing. It's like they have to deny that racism exists in order for a racist party to accept them. Like,
Yeah.
so they have to just go with the flow. Like, well, the racists are saying that we can't call them racist, and they can't know that I know that they're racist because then they'll never accept me. Like, it's such a ew. Like, it's so, come on. Ann Coulter told Nikki Haley to go back to her country.
Hmm.
Ann Coulter said that.
Yeah.
Literally said it. Go back to when she announced her candidacy that she was running for president. Ann Coulter did not like her and told her to go back to her country. And Nikki Haley is saying, "Oh no, it's not a racist." Like, what is, why? And I hate that pick yourself up by the bootstrap. Let me
too.
not gloss over that, because I tell my kids that they can be anything that they want to be. Yes, Nikki, your children can.
No.
You're passing as white. You are living the privileged life. Your husband is white. You have money. You're living in wherever suburbs in your big house. Of course, your kids look white.
Yeah. I also don't want to gloss over the fact when she says she doesn't want to make her this new thing that they're doing, like, you're making my children feel guilty about being white. I'm like, no, nobody's doing that. That's not the point of this thing. First of all, if your child is feeling guilty about being white, that's because you're teaching them that. That's not the idea behind this. This is not, it's just basically saying, look, if you want to understand why there might be some, I don't know, feeling from the Black community sometimes about this country, these are the reasons why. And if we can get you to understand these reasons, then maybe we can take these further steps. And to me, that's what it's all about. That's why it's this, for me, that easy. I can listen to somebody of color and say, and again, Lana, you've talked about this. We've talked about this. Lana doesn't speak for every single person in the Black community. You can find somebody that's completely opposite in the Black community as Lana is.
Yeah.
And
I would never say, Brian, it's your fault and your ancestors' fault that, you know, mom, mammy, and baby got raped. Like, what is, that's not what this is. It's like, it's history.
Well, that's where I hear a lot of white people are like, well, I'm afraid to have a conversation about race because I'm not allowed to say this. I'm not saying. I said, but you can, but sometimes you're misdirected and your thoughts are, you're not getting it. And, you know, I think sometimes, you know, it's okay to say, I don't get it. It's okay to say, I don't understand. Help me understand it. And when you say it, be genuine about it. Don't say it just to say it so you can act like you're going through the motions like a politician would.
Don't tell people how to feel. I mean, that's what I get a lot. You know, you shouldn't, that's not racist. You shouldn't feel like you're too sensitive. And it's just like, yeah, we know the signs. Like we talking about it, it's racist, whether it's intentional or non-intentional. But that's racist. If I don't know, Express or whatever that store was that had the monkeys on their T-shirts, yeah, no, that doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
Right? That's not going to feel good. It's going to feel funny and racist. Confederate flags. No, we're not going to like them. Why would we, when the Confederate soldiers were out here raping Black women, men, and children, like, and wanted slavery? Like, why would anyone be okay with that? Like, that's not being sensitive.
I'm not even sure, like I said, the things you're asking, but I'd also argue too on the opposite side. I would argue, and again, this is just a perception, and Lana, you can help me, let me know if this is reality. But on the opposite side, it almost feels like the Black community would feel more hesitant to say anything because they're in the minority and they don't want to be talked down. And sometimes the Black community is talked down, and it's just like, oh, you're throwing that race card in, you're throwing this in, you're just like, you know what, fuck it. I don't even want to go through this shit anymore. I mean, I'm just trying to express myself. But if every time I express myself, you're just going to say I'm throwing the race card out there, then what's the fucking point?
Right. And you're absolutely right, because what the white community doesn't realize and understand is because white has always been the default, the Black community has always had to assimilate into what y'all got going on, how you talk, how you want to be at work. Like, we've always had to, go to work, be a certain way, act a certain way, wear your hair a certain way. Like, it was all of how the white community did it. So now, we're in 2024. The Black community is like, you know what? No, we need our own identity. We're breaking free of that. We're gonna dress the way we want to dress. We're gonna wear the colors from our countries that we want to wear. We're going to wear our hair naturally. We're not gonna be straightening our hair out, trying to have it slick and whatever. Like, we're not doing that anymore, and that's what's making them crazy, right? Because now we're just like, we're talking about Black. Our Blackness, our Black history, our Black books. We want this. They don't like that. That's what's driving them crazy, because before we were quiet.
Well, they think they think you're shoving it in their face the same way maybe some religious people are telling us how we should be living our lives based on, a fictional book. But you're right. I mean, and I try to assimilate it sometimes with white people. It's not, and it will never be the same comparison because white people have never gone through what Black people have gone through. But, you just kind of maybe put it in a little box where they can understand. I'd say, just imagine starting a new job or a new school and you feel like the outsider and everybody there's clicking and they're all, having a good time, and you're feeling a little bit on the outside and you're trying to assimilate.
So I do it at work, because at this point, like right now, there's a couple of Black people who have come through the job, but right now I'm the only Black woman. I'm the only Black person.
Yeah.
So, the legal assistants, and then, which is really weird because I have an office, right? So I'm the paralegal and they're the legal assistants, so they don't have one. So that's kind of weird for them and the way they deal with me. But then when we have work outings, talking to them is very hard. I can't. Middle-aged white women are on some whole different, the things that they worry about. Oh my God, Bobby's gonna cook lasagna is not what I'm worried about. I'm worried about my son being pulled over by the police. We don't have the same worries, but I'm the one who has to assimilate and start talking about the things that they talk about. They never. I'm on a text message group. I don't know why I'm on there with these people right now. I don't know how we did this for some reason, but the movies and everything they talk about, I'm just like,
it's not about? Well, and look, there's a couple of different ways to look at it. I mean, the alternative is they can leave you out of their, text message group. Maybe you want to be, but I'm just saying it's
right. That's me assimilating and not pulling myself out and just being separate, right? I'm trying to.
Or is it? And let me ask you this though: is it possible that they see you as one of them?
I mean, of course they do, but that goes back to not seeing me, right? Because I'm not one of you.
Yeah.
right? And it's not all of them, because the guy Mike in the mailroom is cool as hell. He loves the old Negro League, like he studies that kind of stuff. So
Is he a white male?
He's a white man,
Yeah.
but he gets it, and his girlfriend's a school teacher, right, in the city.
Yeah.
So they're different, and he gets it, and it's so funny when the black intern left. He comes into my office. He goes, we're the only black people here now. Like, because he gets it, right? That's the joke, because he knows that's probably what I'm thinking. Yeah. So he's cool like that. But no, they don't. Yeah, they see me as one of them, but I'm not one of them. So you can't see me as one of you. Like, it's different.
And again, that's the kind of, these.
You got to see color. You got to see my color.
And you said it last week. I mean, when you had the guy on there saying, I don't see color, I can't remember the clip we played, but you were like, well, that's stupid. Of course you see color. I mean, everybody sees differently. They see color. They see how you look. Everybody sees everything, and everybody's always being judged, no matter what. But some people are being judged maybe a little bit more harshly than others. And I would imagine that is something that the black community has had to go through for really the history of this country. And anybody that says that they don't go through it still today, I would argue that can't be.
That's crazy. It's crazy. If she was a little darker and she walked into a store, they would watch her. Yeah. They would. That's why she's lightening her skin. She knows.
Yeah.
She's never going to say it because she's getting so close. Look how close she's getting to hang with the good old boys. Yeah. Nikki Haley is never going back to Nimrata or whatever her name is, ever.
Right.
Never will.
Right. Yeah, well, this is the kind of intellectual discussion you get on Black and White with Brian Rundle and Lana Quest. So please like and subscribe. I want to play one more clip of Nikki Haley.
Kamala too, because she's married to a white man, but Kamala, all of her it comes out. Her Asian, black, she's who she is. She's not hiding it.
I listen, I've talked to white people, and when I talk to them about voting for Biden, they're like, I can't do it. I'd say, why? They say, I don't know if I trust Kamala Harris. I'm like, what are you talking about? You don't.
Is that weird? Trusted her not to do what?
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't even.
They don't even know her background, her education.
Conversation was not worth continuing. But
what are you talking
about? But I have one more clip from Nikki Haley. She was asked another very easy question, this time as a woman, and how she would feel. Or first of all, let's listen to the clip and we'll talk about it.
Okay. Woman in this race. How do you feel about your party's front runner being held liable for sexual abuse?
I mean, first of all, I haven't paid attention to his cases, and I'm
already a disgusting answer. Disgusting.
I'm not a lawyer. All I know is that
I'm not a lawyer. Yeah.
He's innocent until proven guilty, and when he's proven,
he was already found in the sense of the word guilty. It wasn't a criminal court, but it was
right. He's found
guilty, and he's sitting in a courtroom. That's exactly what I'm talking about. You've got investigations on Trump and Biden.
But a lot of people, forgive me, but a lot
of the other move, bringing up Biden.
And Biden, people, right.
And by the way, there are no charges against Joe Biden. None. Right. Zero.
It's disgusting. She's gross.
She really is.
Republican Party blow it all off and say that it's all a witch hunt, and which is
because
what
I think
says.
some of the cases have been political. This one I haven't looked at, but look, if he's found guilty, then he needs to pay the price. He needs to do what he's supposed to. Every one of these cases, they need to be heard out. He needs to defend himself. If he is found guilty, he's going to pay the price. If he's not found guilty, then we move forward. What I will tell you is I'm focused on the economy, the border, and education, and getting our country back on track. If he's sitting in a courtroom, that goes back to what I'm saying. We can't continue to be distracted. We can't continue to be in chaos. We have a country to save.
Yeah.
That was one of the shittiest answers I've ever heard any candidate give about the leading candidate. First of all, she keeps going back to this if he's found guilty. He already was found guilty. So we can get that out of the way. I'm a little disappointed in Dana Bash not following
She
up.
call it sexual abuse. Is there a difference between sexual abuse and assault?
From the
Sexual
legal
abuse?
sense, I
You could be
don't.
sexually abusive with words, right?
Yeah.
You could
Yeah.
be, your words are abusive. He
Yes.
wasn't sexually abusive. He's found guilty of sexual assault,
Correct.
which in fact is rape because New York defines it differently, right? Like if you put your finger in someone's vagina without their consent, that's rape in most
Correct.
states, but New York has it as sexual assault. So they keep saying that word sexual abuse, and it's not abuse.
She also mentioned that if he's found guilty, which he was,
Right.
if he's found guilty, then we move on, were her words. What do you mean we move on? What does that mean?
Yeah.
The fact that these people will say nothing negative about this
Nothing.
fucking
And then
clown.
had to say, and and some of the cases are political. Which ones, Nikki?
Yeah.
Which ones are political? The case where he had the documents in his bathroom, is that political? The insurrection one, because we saw that. Is that political? Because you saw it too.
Mhm.
Which other ones does he
You
have?
have the so you have the classified documents, the insurrection.
Right, the insurrection, the
Um,
fraudulent
yep.
this Trump org.
The Stormy Daniels.
Not
Yeah. I mean,
political. None of these
yeah.
are political. They
Yeah.
literally have evidence, Nikki. And how are they political when the witnesses are all Republican? Shut up.
Yeah.
Shut
And the good news, basically what we're talking about, I do have some clips on a couple of the Democrats explaining this. But before we do that, you brought up last week about, I hope you have some clips of some of these Trump supporters talking. Well, this week, Lana,
we have them?
for you, I do.
Yes.
Again, very alarming, very disturbing.
Let's do it.
But here is a few Trump supporters being asked whether or not you would rather have Joe Biden as a president or Donald Trump as a dictator. Do you want to guess as to what any of these people would? Okay.
There's no guessing.
4 years of Donald Trump as a dictator or 4 years of Joe Biden as a president?
Donald Trump all the way.
Even as a dictator?
Yes.
Even coming out of Slovakia?
Yes.
Would you rather have 4 years of Donald Trump as a dictator or 4 years of Joe Biden as a president?
We have a dictator currently, so.
Yes, we do.
What would you rather have? 4 years of Donald Trump as a dictator or 4 more years of Joe Biden?
Looking at that T-shirt and that hat, what do you think his answer is going to be?
As president.
I think I'm choosing Donald Trump as a dictator for 4 more years.
You rather have 4 years of dictator Trump or 4 years of a Biden presidency?
4 years of a dictator Trump.
Yeah, I'm going dictator Trump for sure. Would you rather have him as a dictator for 4 years or Biden as a president for 4 years?
I'd rather have Donald Trump as a dictator for 4 years. Absolutely. Because look at Biden. He's done nothing but bring this country down. So I don't want that president for the next 4 years.
If you could have an option of 4 years of Donald Trump as a dictator or 4 years of Joe Biden as a president, what would you choose?
Donald Trump.
Even as a dictator?
He wouldn't be a dictator.
No, but I'm in this silly hypothesis.
Donald Trump. I'd still say Donald Trump. Absolutely.
Would you rather have Trump as a dictator or Biden as a president?
I'd rather have Trump as a dictator than Biden any day. It's kind of obvious who knows what they're doing. There is no dictatorship with Trump.
She's literally tanning herself to be a brown person.
She yes. She also sounds like one of those teen pageant girls that are asked a question about politics.
She looks crazy.
Well,
what
look at the
is
lipstick
that?
on that?
Okay, all the shade, but Trump cult has like a look. They just do. They all do.
The men have a look and the women have a look. I mean, there's different sort of aspects to them.
You would think that you would vote for the party who's trying to give you health care and dental care.
Correct.
But they don't. Literally,
they don't know that.
No teeth in their mouths.
Yep.
Donald Trump has never, all he talks about is getting rid of Obamacare. He never talked about get you some health care. And these people need, you can look at them and see they need health care.
It's not even just look at them, Lana. How many questions outside of that ridiculous one do you think you can ask any of those people about politics before you realize they know absolutely nothing about politics?
Just parroting. He hasn't done nothing.
Yeah.
What's the nothing he hasn't done? Like, so for 4 years, he just sat in his office and played golf?
Tell me.
You can say what Trump did, and they'd be like, "Yup, that's what he's doing."
Tell me what Trump did. He kept our country safe and our borders were closed. You know, it's funny. I saw a clip. Some lady was talking on CNN with this other guy, and he was talking about the open borders and all this stuff. And she brought up the apprehensions that were taking place at the border and all the arrests and everything, and the record highs, the amount of people being apprehended. And she was like, you know, if there's record highs of apprehensions, then that's just the definition of our border being closed. How could our border be open if we are arresting people trying to come into the country?
Right. What are you talking about?
They don't even know what they're saying.
No. There wouldn't be anyone to put in cages if the border wasn't open.
Right. I said, it's just, we brought up this up a million times, that propaganda machine of the Fox Newses and the Newsmax and now the podcasts and the AM, still the FM radio station, all these people on there have gotten a certain amount of the electorate to believe whatever it is that they say, and they say it with no shame whatsoever. We're literally talking about a news channel that is still on the air that was sued and lost $787 million because they flat lied. And how you continue to trust that channel. Right. It's not a matter of trust. It's a matter of just wanting to believe. That's all that is. They don't even care if it's true.
Nope. No, they just want their side to win. If it means, because sticking it to the libs means something at this point, and they will support an orange rapist if it means sticking it to the libs. If we're unhappy about it, they don't care. They're going to support him. All of it is just wild. Evangelicals, wild, voting for him, wild. All of it is just crazy.
What is it? I mean, literally, what could you think of that would make you think about your interest, but somebody came out and said something outside of your interest that you'd say, you know what, I'd rather vote for that over my interest? Is there anything you can think of? Anything?
No. If Biden started talking about wanting to be a dictator, Democrats would drop him so fast.
Right. Right.
I'm going to be a dictator on day one. If he alluded to that, he'd be gone.
If he even said the word dictator, they would just splice it up and said, look, Joe Biden wants to. And in fact, you have some people on there saying that Joe Biden already is a dictator.
This is what I don't understand. Martin Luther King Day, and it's a cult, so I should understand. But it's like Trump did no service. Biden goes, he volunteers, boxed up and made meals for the marginalized community in Philadelphia. Trump is on Truth Social ranting and raving like a mad person. But Biden's the bad guy. Biden's the pedo. Biden's the bad guy. Trump has never served. Trump didn't serve when he was a private citizen. Trump did not serve when he was the president. And Trump ain't serving now. Like, never. We've seen Bush go to the food kitchens on Thanksgiving. We've seen the Obamas and their children giving out food at Thanksgiving. We did not see Melania and Donald Trump go give out nobody's food.
I think this might be the first time on our show that I just completely disagree with you and have to defend Donald Trump. There was a time where he threw paper towels at Puerto Rican people.
I didn't go say that. He did.
So I don't know if Lana's being completely fair here.
I'm sorry. He did do a service. He threw.
I mean, think about it. All of Puerto Rico was covered with water. So what better to clean up that water than some paper towels?
Some bounty.
Some bounty. So
you're gonna
anybody? Yeah. See?
Shoo.
See, Lana and I will argue with each other when there's a point that needs to be made.
You got a point there.
Yep.
That's true. I can't even say anything about that. You're right.
Yeah. I didn't mean to embarrass you, Lana. All right. You want to hear some good news?
Yeah.
Okay. President Biden raised over $97 million for his re-election effort in the final 3 months of 2023. His campaign announced that on Monday morning. It's Biden's strongest fundraising quarter yet, and he enters an election year with $117 million cash on hand, likely to give him an advantage over his potential Republican rival. The Biden team spent 73% of the money it raised in the fourth quarter, slightly lower than the 80% burn rate in the third quarter. Trump raised $154 million in the fourth quarter of 2019 and had $195 million cash on hand going into 2020. In the fourth quarter of 2011, Obama raised $68 million and had $81 million in the bank at the beginning of 2012. So Biden is significantly outraising Barack Obama, which, and I'll tell you what my opinion is as to why that's a big deal, is because to me, you can look at all the polls you want to, and you can get suckered by all these polls that Joe Biden and either Donald Trump are tied, or Donald Trump is trouncing him, or Donald Trump has got the edge. These are real numbers. These are numbers that are saying we are giving to Joe Biden, and I can almost guarantee that if he is outraising Barack Obama by this amount, that these are not all Democrats giving him this money. These are people who are either independents or people who want nothing to do with Donald Trump being the president of the United States. That's at least my guess. And I think that that is a very positive sign. I don't know if you saw too that Pennsylvania, their recent polls had Joe Biden leading by 4 and had him leading significantly. I want to say by 7 points with people over 60 years old.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was either in Pennsylvania or Michigan, one of the two. But here's my assessment, at least. And, you know, there are people who know way more about this than I do, but just my blind eye assessment here is that the fact that they are raising so much money right now in a time where America feels as if we are on the brink of losing our democracy, that this tells me that a lot of people are taking this serious. That's number one. Number two, we still haven't even factored in the Republicans and the independents who say, I will lean towards Donald Trump, but once we go through 2024 and they see how serious these charges are, and there certainly could be a guilty verdict on at least one of these trials, that's going to change a lot of minds too. So what might seem close, I think, is going to open up significantly as the year goes on. And as you and I've said before, I think Joe Biden is fucking thrilled that Donald Trump is the nominee, and he wants nothing to do with getting rid of him as the nominee. Nothing.
No, absolutely. And the stunt that the Republicans are pulling right now with Mike Johnson saying, like, well, we're not going to tackle immigration until we get a Republican in office is insane, right? Like, it's like, because they need it. They need something, but gas prices are down. inflation is, is not bad. We're doing better than all the other countries. There is nothing for them to complain about. They cannot.
Stock market's up.
Yeah, they can't be like your kitchen table. They can't do that. They cannot do it right now.
Nope.
And they're drowning in it. And you're right. I do think that people are going to coalesce around Biden and,
come to their senses.
Yeah, because between now and time for election, this abortion issue is going to get worse. We just heard about the young woman, Yenny, who died because she didn't get an abortion. There are going to be more women that just have not come out yet because Yenny died a little while ago, right after Roe, like a few months after Roe, she died.
Yeah.
And she didn't have to die. So there are other women who died that weren't allowed to get abortions, and their family they're trying to get over it, but it's going to come out. It's going to be worse. There's going to be more mass shootings. We can say that because we know it's going to happen. It's sad, but it's going to happen, like all of it. So,
and I think a lot of this money is going to go towards obviously those issues that are very, very sensitive to a lot of people. And those issues at the end of the day are going to make the difference. I truly do believe that when it comes down to making a decision, whether you like to do it or not, I still don't understand why you don't like voting for Joe Biden. I mean, unless you are that deep into the Israeli-Palestine issue, which I don't blame you. There's not something that I'm shaming you about being, but we've talked about this before. If you're that deep on that side, that means you are on the side of some part of progressive, politics.
Right.
And good luck getting to where you want to get to. If your stance is that strong on I can't vote for Joe Biden because he's not doing everything that I think he should be doing.
That's the part that drives me crazy, because it's like, are you listening to what Joe Biden says on this? Like, how can you even think that? You can't be listening to what he or his administration are saying. You can't be Googling his stance on this, because Joe Biden is not out here going, yo, Benji, go on, he's not doing that. He's been trying to quell this for the longest and get hostages out. And I think if it wasn't for Biden, those hostages probably wouldn't have been released. I don't think it would have been a pause this. It wouldn't have happened. So it's just, that's baffling to me. Like, women here are losing their reproductive freedom.
Yeah.
And you're stuck over there, which, yes, it's atrocious, but it's atrocious here because women are dying here.
Yeah.
Women are dying.
Yeah, you said it last week. It's easy to research and easy Google, but the problem for them is that politics is way easier. And you brought this up last week with TikTok politics.
Yeah.
So, if TikTok is that readily available and it's a 30-second video that can explain to you what's going on in the world, well, hey, I've got all the information I need now. And that's unfortunately where people are getting their information. And it's really sad, especially the younger people.
Yeah.
That's scary. And that certainly works into the advantage of the Republicans and Donald Trump and all those clowns. But and today, I do believe that we are, America is going to make the right decision. I really have no doubt about that. I feel confident about that. Don't get me wrong. Still going to be scary up until the point it actually happens.
Right.
But America will make the right decision. I'm never going to be the guy who goes, well, these are two choices that, I'm not in love with either one of them. I'm in love with Joe Biden. I think Joe Biden is a phenomenal president. I think he's done a great job. I don't think any president is ever going to be perfect, but I also do believe
no human is perfect. Right.
Yeah.
No human is perfect. But again, we always say this, one side is trying and one side just doesn't care.
Correct.
We talk about the black vote. The Republican Party in Iowa declined to meet with the black community, declined to meet at that black forum.
Yeah.
They don't care. They don't. you beat up Joe Biden and say he's not doing enough for the Black community, right? I don't know what enough is, but he's doing some things, right? He done went to Philadelphia like 3 times in 4 years, or 3 times, and 3 times. Is it 4 years? Is this his 4th year of presidency?
Yeah.
So 3 times, right? He's been in Philadelphia 3 times, giving food out to the marginalized. We know he's gone to colleges. We know he's gone to the Black churches. Okay, yeah. I mean, he's out there trying, right? He's lowering Black unemployment. That's at an all-time low. All of these things. Donald Trump and Republicans are doing none of those things. They don't even talk about those things. When's the last time Donald Trump went to a Black college?
Come on.
When's the last time Donald Trump went to a college?
Right. Yeah. To any college.
People. Like, he's not doing any of the things. And then you guys like, well, Biden's not doing enough, when Republican parties are never being held accountable. And that's ridiculous.
Well, also look at the differences look who's being elected to each party. I mean, and we're talking about, again, we've talked about this a million times. The Democratic Party looks like America. It looks, more, it looks more like their voters, and the fact that you still have voters. By the way, I meant to ask you this. Are you do you know this Charlemagne the God?
Yeah.
I saw, did you see him? I guess he was on Joy Reid and he was bashing Biden. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, like it's
what do you think of him? Because I don't know a whole bunch about him.
Yeah.
I know of him.
He's an opportunist, right? So he has a new political podcast that he created with Angela Rye.
Mm-hmm.
She's a political pundit. She's been on MSNBC.
So she knows her stuff.
Yeah, she does. And Gilliam.
Oh yeah, I saw that. That's one of the clips I saw. Yeah.
Right. So
Gilliam, who was, by the way, he ran against Ron DeSantis here in Florida and barely lost to him the first time.
Right. But Charlemagne does a two-faced thing, right? It's like, I don't know what to tell my viewers about Biden, because I'm not thrilled about him. I don't know if I vote for him again. But if you vote for Trump, democracy may be lost. So you're talking out of both sides of your face, and it's hard for your viewers or your listeners to discern what they should do, because because what you just said is don't do anything.
Yeah.
Don't vote at all. Because if you're saying you vote for Trump, it's loss of democracy. Biden, I don't like him. I don't know if I'll vote. Like, what are you saying to them? So like he does that play thing. Like I understand, because I know the purpose of the podcast is to push Democrats, that's the Biden administration, that's all the administration, to talk and do more for the Black community.
Yeah.
And it needs to be done. Like it just does, right? Like we hear about the Black community with the Democrats when it's election time. That is the truth, right? Yeah. Like you really need to go into those communities and talk to those communities more, because you talk to all the other communities, you go into the suburbs. But Charlemagne, like he does that thing. That's what bothers me, because I feel like he's an opportunist and he does it on purpose because he wants to keep his listeners. He wants people on that podcast. He started talking this stuff specifically so he can get onto Joy Reid and onto all the other news shows so he could promote his podcast. That's what he's doing right now. Yeah. That's why he started saying what he was saying, because he wants his name out there so he just started that podcast. So he's an opportunist. That's what it is.
And that's kind of a shame, because I know he's influential in somewhere he's influential. He hosted The Daily Show. He was one of the guest hosts on The Daily Show.
Breakfast Club, like that's a
correct.
Huge New York, that's huge.
You talk about influential. I mean, you go on that show if you're running for or any high office. You were on The Breakfast Club.
Kamala went on there.
Yes, Hillary was on there, and Joe Biden was on there.
You hear the second interview with Kamala, because the first interview they had,
it was contentious a little bit, wasn't it?
Right, because she had to say, "Come on, Charlemagne, don't say that," because I forgot what he tried to put on her. Maybe, I don't know if it was like the black men not going out to black men, and she had to be like, whoa.
Was it maybe the California, when she was a prosecutor in California thing?
I don't know if that was the most recent one, but I think he did talk about that before. But she was on there because she's talked about smoking weed on Breakfast Club, and like Republicans like flipped their lid about it. But yeah, see him, and he would talk that same stuff about Stacey Abrams too. So it's dangerous.
Yeah, and see, that's I see. And this is what really irritates me, whether it's somebody like him or Joe Rogan or all these guys who want to pretend like they're taking a stance, but they're kind of dancing the line, and they're kind of, but they have millions of listeners. They've got millions of people listening to them. And to me, this is not something to fuck around with. If you have a stance, fucking take it and understand what your stance is and why you have it. But to dance around it.
Daughters. Charlamagne has 2 or 3 daughters. So for him to be talking about, I don't know if I'm gonna vote, you gotta be out of your mind, and you have daughters. How can you play with that? Listen, I don't care. Like, who cares about your job and your listeners when your daughters will not have but you know what? He's got money. So it doesn't matter to people with money.
Well, you just said it. I mean, you said who cares, but they do care when it makes it. See, and that's the shame of money, is that when it makes you more money, you can go against your interests sometimes if it makes you more money, or you can dance around something that's serious and not even understand how serious it is. You might even still think you're doing the right thing. But I don't know. That bothers me with a lot of these guys who have such influence on a lot of people, and they are misdirecting and misleading. Now, if you had a valid point on something, I'm listening all day. I'll also say too, I'm not a big fan, whether it's Charlamagne or anybody else, like the progressives, that if you have a stance right now is probably not the best time to take it. And I'm never saying to never back down, and I'm never going to tell anybody to go against, and to change your views or whatever the case is. But we have 2 choices right now. And one is a guy that is going to this party will allow you to advance your what you're looking for, as opposed to a guy who wants nothing to do with you advancing at all. In fact, probably wants you to go back, quite some time.
We'll start to fire anyone they suspect is not a Republican that works for the government. We've already talked about this. He said that he is going to do that.
Yeah.
I think DeSantis has done that in his state.
He definitely already has. And, it's just, it's a clown show that, you're asking for something that I promise you at some point you're going to regret. So I think, let's get through this game maybe, and then we can have our press conference on what we think should happen.
Okay,
but,
sorry, my battery was.
Oh, that's all right.
It was not plugged in.
Okay. But yeah, I was saying, let's get through the game first, and then we can have a press conference based on what we think should happen. Let's not have the press conference now and say everything sucks and this sucks. Let's win the game first.
Agree.
Does that sound fair?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're getting a little deep in the show. There's a couple clips I have to play.
Okay.
Are we good, Lana?
Yeah.
All right. Did you see the Hunter Biden hearings?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. I know it was about 6 days ago, but there's the Republicans were holding a hearing as to whether or not they were going to hold Hunter Biden in contempt for not going or not showing up with his subpoena. And Hunter Biden showed up, walked into the courtroom and said, well, I'm here.
Yeah.
And there were some classic clips that came from that particular. Now, there are a couple, I can only pull so many clips, and I wanted to play pretty much every one of them. But these are the ones I want to play. I want to play the ones. There's Marjorie Taylor Greene started yapping. Hunter Biden got up and left, which was classic. I don't have that clip. I'm sure everybody's seen it a million times. But I want to play what the Democrats in the House, some of these Democrats who, to me, are the future of this party, and the ones who are taking absolutely no bullshit or no nonsense from any of these fucking clowns. The first one I want to play is, who do I have here? I have who is, give me a second, Lana. Jamie Raskin.
Mm-hmm.
Who I love Jamie Raskin.
Yes.
This is him taking them basically to school.
It was a great business grift for a guy who went bankrupt several times. And yet, out of some misguided partisan loyalty, you're going to stick with him. I don't even know why you stick with him. He was a Democrat longer than he was a Republican. He wanted to run for president on the Reform Party. You guys have been taken over by an absolute con man. And now you're acting like members of a religious cult who don't even remember how you got in the first place.
This is the exact kind of language that needs to be used with these people. First of all, you need to shame them, and you need to shame them for your undying, bizarre loyalty to a lifelong con man.
Right. And the good thing is, like, people like us and more people really need to show, because no one watches these hearings, right? Like, so they'll be like, Democrats need to get tough. And, you know, Crockett and all of them, they just talk, they talk to them disrespectful as fuck. Like, they don't even care anymore. So they are getting tough, but you just don't see it because it's not on local.
You're right. It's not. Nobody sits around and watches C-SPAN, but I will tell you, these clips go viral like crazy. And this is the reason why I saw them. I didn't sit around and watch C-SPAN,
Right, sure.
but they went around. You just brought up Jasmine Crockett, which I am considering buying the wedding ring and just asking her to marry me.
Yeah, you can say that. Oh, just going to marry her. She's beautiful.
Because what's the, well, I said this, I said, you know, the worst she could say is say no, or she could talk to me the way she talks to them that would put me in the fetal position and make me never ask a woman out ever again, because she's a flat badass. And I'm going to play this clip of her because I love her.
You why nobody wants to talk to y'all behind closed doors, because y'all lie. That's just the bottom line. You have done it thus far in this investigation. You have done it this far as it relates to this committee. And every single hearing, y'all spin, spin, spin. I don't know how y'all are still standing right now, because you should be quite dizzy from all the spinning that you're constantly doing when it comes to spinning the truth. You talk about free and fair elections, but you back a guy who we know tried to steal the election. And this isn't about what Democrats have to say. Let me remind you, for those of you that don't know how the justice system works, it's not a matter of the president went in and indicted Trump, but we are talking about grand juries. Grand juries are comprised of American citizens.
This is what you and I were talking about a little bit earlier, is that's what, you know, what she brings up is, you were talking about these aren't political. These aren't political. You're right. These are charges that stemmed from a grand jury listening to everything and going, oh yeah, there's definitely something here. Let's move forward. These were American citizens.
Exactly. That's why that Fannie Willis, whatever, who the fuck cares who she's fucking? She didn't make the charges up on Trump. Like, that's so ridiculous. But
no question about it. But of course they reach for straws. But this is Miss Crockett just absolutely, but you know, she absolutely laying this out. And it just, and I also love the vigor behind it, and just the, you know, basically I am saying this in a manner to absolutely shame every one of you fucking clowns, and I fucking love it.
And the people that have entered pleas of guilty that will be flipping on your leader in a minute, they are Republicans. I do want to point that out. And half of them were Republicans that were handpicked by Donald Trump himself. So, to be clear, whatever happens to your little leader, it's going to be because of the actions that he took. So you can talk all you want to about how January 6th was nonsense, but all of y'all were running at that time. Y'all were grabbing y'all's gas masks and y'all were running to your offices because you didn't know if they were coming to kill you. You should have cared that somebody was there to protect you, but instead you want to play games because you found out that it was your leader that decided that he wanted to propagate an insurrection on our country. So don't tell me that you care about the Constitution, because you don't. All you care about is Trump getting reelected, and I'll yield the last of my time to my leader.
Thank you very much.
Yep. I'm going to take the chance and ask her because
Go ahead. Slide in the DMs.
That is just A+, phenomenal takedown. And that's exactly what I want to hear. I love you both heard Jamie Raskin and you heard Jasmine Crockett. You heard them both belittle Donald Trump, your little leader, your little guy. And to me, again, not the politics that you and I grew up with and not exactly the politics that we are rooting for, but this is what we're in. That's what you're going to fucking get, period.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Love it.
They can't hang. They can't hang with that as soon as Democrats start. Because Democrats are smart as fuck, so they should have started.
That is exactly right.
A long time ago. They got the facts. They're just smart. You got Marjorie Taylor Greene and fucking Bobart. They're just dumb as rocks. Like they don't even know what they're talking about half the time.
Yep, they're just flat stupid, and they're called out constantly in these hearings. How Marjorie Taylor Greene got back on these hearing committees is just, it's really, it is, you're telling America that you are not serious by having that wacko asking questions during hearings. One more clip, another guy that has taken over. I mean, just literally bombing these idiots is this Jared Moskowitz, who is, I'm telling you, this guy's A+. There was, I don't have the clip, but when I do have a clip of him speaking in an interview, but there was a time in the Hunter Biden hearings when he said, hey, if you guys want to take a vote, we'll take a vote right now as to whether or not you want a subpoena or if you want him, I'll vote for it. I'll vote to hold him in contempt. We'll do it. Then he held up like 7 subpoenas of Republicans that he goes, as long as we do these 7, I will do this one and we'll do it right now. You have my vote. I promise you. And all of them are just quiet. They don't know what to say. And they all looked like clowns. But here's him being interviewed by one of the guys from Midas Touch. And again, this is the kind of language that I'm hearing from Democrats that I love, and I want this to continue. And as long as these 3 and others are in Congress, I have a feeling the fight that the Republicans are going to get that they did not want and they didn't think they were going to get is going to continue. And here's him explaining that.
To that, you were ready of Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. Why'd you hold that up, Congressman?
Well, again, I mean, she's over there giving a speech, opening the door about pedophiles and grooming and kids and young girls. And I'm thinking to myself, see, they just live in a bubble. And so, okay, we want to play this game. No problem. Let me bring out the one of just a dozen photos of Donald Trump and Epstein. And as soon as that photo came out, you should have looked at the Republicans. They were like ostriches. Each one, like their head immediately went below their desk because, they're all out there attacking Epstein for other people. And they forget that Donald Trump and him were super close. In fact, Donald Trump commented that, oh, Jeffrey likes them really young. Well, how would he know that? Well, how would he know? Well, some people are saying, Ben, that, he was there. And so, yeah, look, if that's what they're going to do, okay, I know Democrats want to be better than them, and I want to be better than them, and I don't want to sink the hearings into this, but unfortunately, we have to fight fire with fire, and I'm not going to let them do these hearings where they pretend like the guy that they basically kneel to and take commands from and is in charge of their entire party, right, doesn't pal around and didn't pal around with a pedophile. I'm not going to let them get away with that as they try to paint Democrats as something different. And what I'm hoping is that Marjorie and these others see is that when they want to go off the rails and they want to, go below decorum, no problem. I'm going to be there every single time prepared. Again, sometimes you're not going to see these boards that I make because, we will have a regular hearing and I don't need to show them. But I'm going to be ready. And I think that's what they're not prepared for. They're not prepared for Democrats to be this aggressive, this in their face. And that's what I think a lot of the members of oversight led by Jamie Raskin on our side are doing this year. is that we're giving them a taste of their own medicine. And what we're exposing is not only can they not handle it, not only are a lot of them like snowflakes, but also it's setting them off their games.
Yeah. That's perfect. To me, that's perfect. And I love everyone. I love this fight. I love this. Guys, you think we're stupid and you think you're going to be doing this shit and we're going to sit around and take it just like in a way the old Democrat Party did. For years, they sat around and took the
Nancy
shit.
Pelosi stepped down, right? Because now they're open to do other things, right? Like they can take it to them because Nancy Pelosi's old school.
Yeah. And if you want to criticize, you could criticize that part of it because that did bother me for the longest time. I'm like, well, why? I don't understand. Why are they allowing them to control this narrative all the time? And that's why there is this back and forth sort of debate is what do these people go on Fox News or they don't? Is it a waste of time or is it not a waste of time? I'm in the camp of they should go on everything and they should continue to have this language on every fucking channel. They should go on Charlemagne. They should go on Joe Rogan. They should go on every one of these who may be a little misleading or maybe not passing along exactly the full information, and let everybody know what the full information is.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. So I can watch those all day. Got a couple more clips. Do you have time for a couple more? Okay. Actually, I'm going to skip one. We'll do this another time. Actually, I'll just go over this briefly. Is that we were talking about independents and Republicans. Once everything gets through, I think, Donald Trump is going to be in trouble. What I am seeing too now more of, which I am liking, is Republicans who are coming out saying, I absolutely will vote for Joe Biden. Adam Kinzinger is one that came out recently, said it's not even a question. It's like some of these Republicans hesitate or they'll say, well, we'll wait and see, or, I'm going to do everything, but they won't commit to saying whether or not they'll vote for Joe Biden. He, without hesitation, said, of course I would vote for Joe Biden. It's not even close because one is not trying to destroy democracy. Another one was Anthony Scaramucci, the former press secretary who was there for like 13 days. He came out, same thing. Would you vote? He's like, oh, it's not why it's not even a question. Like I wouldn't even hesitate to vote for Joe Biden. So I think we're going to wind up seeing more of that. Chris Christie dropped out of the race recently, and I was hoping in that very powerful speech he made, and I don't know how much of it you saw or if you saw any of it, but his speech saying that I'm no longer running was very strong, very powerful, but I was just really hoping he would say, I would absolutely vote for Joe Biden. Maybe there's still a possibility.
And it's so funny because I don't think he would. I could see him writing somebody in.
Yeah, I mean, that's possible. But you know what? You also can't say I will do everything in my power to make sure that Donald Trump is not the president. You can't say that if that is not your stance.
Right. But he's a Republican, so I don't know.
Yeah. All right. So let's wrap up. The final thing is that this is how crazy our country has gotten and how this isn't like even more major news. It is news, but this should be all over the place. Roger Stone, the very strange political whatever he was with Donald Trump. Donald Trump pardoned him for crimes that he had committed that he should be in jail for. But he got pardoned and he's roaming around on the streets free. Hopefully not for much longer because an audio tape just came out recently. He has some very interesting ideas of how he wants to proceed for the rest of this year. Let's take a listen to Roger Stone and we'll talk about it when he's
there and go for one swallow and get this over with. It's time to do it now. Then we'll see how brave the rest of them. You can follow either Swalwell or Nadler has to die before the election. They need to get the message. Just not hold up with this again.
That's crazy.
He is plotting the death.
That's crazy
of either Jerry Nadler or Eric Swalwell and says, we need to send them a message because if we kill them, they're not going to run their fucking mouths
You know
anymore.
why this isn't like all over everywhere?
It's not all over everywhere because now we are in a news cycle that is so beyond crazy that it gets
Iowa
lost.
To the fucking Iowa. So maybe next week they'll catch on to someone to put it on their show and it'll just keep going. Because
but Lana, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, if this story came out, they wouldn't even talk about Iowa. They'd say, we'll let you know what's going on in Iowa, but they would talk about this for weeks.
Like that's serious. He wasn't joking.
No, he was not. He was talking to one of these Proud Boys, by the way, is what he was doing. And if anybody doesn't think that these kind of conversations are not going on with people like Roger Stones and others about Democrats, you're out of your fucking mind. And I can tell you, you are. If it ever happens, I'll play it on this and I'll say I was dead wrong. You're not going to find a Democrat being secretly recorded talking about killing Ron DeSantis or whoever it is they think that Marjorie Taylor Greene or Matt Gaetz. I mean, you might hear somebody going, God, I wish somebody would, but I don't think you're going to hear anybody plotting the death of these people because we need to send a message to these people.
Right.
This is why we should be taking this way more seriously than we are. But it is my understanding that there are some people in law enforcement who did not think that this was very funny. So there is an investigation going on with Roger Stone. He was pardoned, kept out of jail, and this might be, his way of getting back in there.
How did they get the tapes before we go?
I don't know. I don't know. Obviously these things, and somebody wanted to leak this and somebody probably said, you know what, this is a little bit more serious than, so we should probably leak this somewhere. I don't know how they got the tape. And maybe somebody does. I don't know. But yeah, that's, to me, that's not just, that's scary shit.
Say Swalwell has he even responded?
He has, yes. He actually tweeted, and I had the tweet somewhere, but actually, let me read it real quick because he did respond. Let's see. Swalwell said the comments. Okay. The Roger Stone assassination plot recording may seem like the ravings of a wannabe gangster, which you alluded to earlier, I think before we got on the air, right? Yeah. It's not. This is what Trump and his real life thugs do. They try to intimidate opponents and will always choose violence over voting. Because I'm one of Trump's loudest critics, Stone put a hit out on me. This threat and other threats of violence by Trump and his supporters must be taken seriously by not only law enforcement, but also by my colleagues. Both parties, not just Democrats, must condemn this violence. It's sad that must condemn this violence. Unity will always be the best antidote against further violence. And finally, he says, Stone said that I and Trump enemies need to get the message. Well, I and the voters have the message for Stone and Trump. We are still here and we are not going anywhere until we bury MAGAism and make sure American democracy endures. So that was his statement. Obviously a little bit more professional and probably not what he's thinking. And
that's unnerving.
Yeah, it really is. And it's sad that we have elected officials now who, and I know in American history, you had to worry about some loons here and there, but I think the loons have grown significantly more and you have to worry way more about something crazy happening these days than you did, I think, 10, 15, 20, 100 years ago. So,
for sure.
Yeah. So anyway, that is our show for today. You know how I always like to ask and wrap up. Do we do a show on Thursday?
Yes.
We missed last Thursday.
I didn't do it last Thursday because the electricians were still here. Like I knew like they'd been doing work when I get home. So sometimes I'm just not tired.
All right. Well, please join Lana on the Quest show
I'll
at
be
8
there
o'clock on Thursday. She will be there.
I've already prepared, so I'll be there. If I prepare early, I'm good.
Did you write things down?
Yeah, I wrote things down.
Then you got to go. She'll definitely be there. Then.
Yeah,
If
I'll
she
be
wrote
there.
something down, then she's
Exactly.
Yep, she definitely prepared. So
I don't write anything down.
So we will be there for that. I want to close, and by the way, and say that we talked about this before the show. My dream is over of the Dolphins going to the Super Bowl. I sold my canceled my flight, canceled the rooms. That was hard to do.
I know.
Depressing.
When did you know it was over? Like what?
I knew it was over 5 weeks ago, but as a fan, I know my mind. I know this team, so I knew in the back of my mind when it was over.
Yeah.
But Saturday night, it was officially over because they played a playoff game, and now we're on the stage. If you lose your playoff game, season's over. You're done.
Right.
You pack up your shit, you go home. So they lost to Taylor Swift and the Kansas City Chiefs on Saturday night. I do have Super Bowl tickets for sale if anybody would like them. I will resell them. What I'm kind of hoping.
Go? You don't want to.
No, if the Dolphins aren't in it, I'm not going. But I had already planned to go, and I bought those tickets. But if anybody wants some tickets, what I'm hoping for is maybe the Chiefs and the Lions, because that means it's Taylor Swift versus Eminem, and they will definitely both have a lot of play there. But yeah, my dream is over. And you know Hootie from Hootie and the Blowfish. You ever heard?
I've heard.
You know that song, I only want to be with you. Yeah. Well, there's a line in that song that says, I'm such a baby because the Dolphins make me cry. He's actually talking about the Miami Dolphins because he's a big Miami Dolphins fan. And so they've made us cry again this year. So
that's sad.
Oh, it's sad.
There's always therapy.
I definitely need it. This is maybe the show is part my therapy, but it takes the whole wind out of my sails when that happens. So I'll find a way to get over it. Yeah. But, you know, I want to thank Lana for helping me do that tonight. I want to thank anybody that watched tonight. I also want to thank anybody that watches it later. Please like and subscribe.
Absolutely.
What's the other thing we do?
Hit that notification bell so you know when we're on.
Let's do it. Okay, Lana.
You can share this video.
Yes, please like and share. Lana, you're the best. And we will see you guys you'll see her on Thursday, and you'll see us back on next Tuesday at 8 o'clock. Black and White show, or Black and White with Brian Rundle and Lana Quest.
Good night.
Good night.